what's up, everybody? Cisco here. And today I want to talk about something that really surprised me. I wasn't surprised of how many groomers or CPs are out there, but there are far more than I have ever expected. And going down the rabbit holes, as we often say, I came across this content creator named Turkey Tom. And I know it sounds like a funny name, but what he does is something that I have yet to see a lot of other people do. And he goes after those who not only have been accused, but have either been convicted or have admitted to child grooming, to behaviors, even to bestiality. And these people trying to put up a front of how much they love their animals, or how much uh, they appreciate children. Well, they appreciate children in the sense that normal people don't. Being a father and my little girl, um, days away from turning, another year old, you want to protect your children at all costs. And watching some of this content creators videos really put in perspective of how many sick are out there just waiting for the next big thing to blow up, to where you're going to get a mass amount of you know 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 year olds loving the content of an anime, or uh, you know dressing up, cosplaying, things of that nature. And all the while, their intentions are, let me see what I could do to groom this person to be my. I mean, there's just words that they use that are beyond belief. And I can't believe that so many of them get away with it no matter how much proof is there. With this Turkey Tom, he really calls out a lot of them that have more proof that is just overwhelming, and they eventually either turn themselves in, or the FBI, cyber task force gets involved. And I think we need more of that. If anything, the message that I'm trying to send is that I think as parents, we need to do a better job of watching what our children view online. I have never wanted to be one of those parents that are constantly looking over your child's shoulder. I was raised with a wonderful mother, wonderful grandmother when my father left my mother, and they raised me with the utmost respect for women. It shocked me because the other day I had made a comment on Facebook that had nothing to do with feminism, and somebody called me misogynistic, and I'm like, if you knew me, you would have taken that back faster than it would have taken you to type it. But you get trolls, and I really do not give a shit about trolls. Trolls could say whatever the fuck they want. They could put together whatever the hell they want. I don't care. None of us are perfect. We all have pasts. We all have things that maybe we weren't proud of, but I could proudly say is I've never, ever have looked at a tiny child and been like, I wonder. There's a screw loose with people like that. And whenever they see, I had featured these bronies, these furries, these people who dress up, and I'm talking about 30, 40, 50, 60-year olds who have criminal backgrounds of child predatory actions. And that's why I say, as parents, we really need to monitor what kind of conversations our children having with adults. I don't see what the hell a 50, 60-year-old would want with the 13, 14-year-old. Sometimes even younger. Doesn't matter if to me it's sickening, but to some people it might not be. Just the fact that they're young is sickening enough, but a man going after a little boy, a woman going after a little girl. I mean, it's just, it adds more depravity to the situation than anything else. But what this content creator does is really bring about some good points, and unarguable points from the person that is being called out. Um, and I'm glad that some of the community is starting to recognize this. So, take this almost as an educational slash reaction to what this gentleman is doing, because I truly admire that he's, attacking some of these really hard subjects that oftentimes get demonetized because you can't say CP in its full, you know, definition. I mean, it's sickening. I don't get it. But without further ado, I'm going to split this video in two. It's 40 minutes long. I'll let one run 20 minutes and the second 20 minutes. And yeah, I really hope to get some views back. So if you guys are out there and you're listening to me, come on back. Some of my subscribers, I know oftentimes you'll look at the numbers and it's like, subscribers aren't watching? What the hell? Just pass-throughs? But hey, if you're a pass-through, feel free to like and subscribe. I try to post a few videos every week. I greatly appreciate it. So, without further ado, here is Mr. Turkey Tom. And let me get back to where was I? Oh, right here. There we go. I keep on forgetting to shrink my big mug, so I'm going to do that today. Nope, not quite there. That should be perfect. All right, guys. Viewer discretion is advised.
This one was a long time coming, wasn't it? Usually, when I broach the topic of the most prominent degenerates in any given medium, it hinges on the idea that we are, indeed, dealing with a niche, too small to attract the due scrutiny necessary to root out the degenerates within it, hence their continued presence. However, when we're talking about anime, the story is very different. Though, obviously, the entire genre of anime cannot be blamed, nor should it be associated with the kind of degeneracy people engage in under its umbrella. But, of course, it's worth noting how prevalent every kind of sordid abnormality seems to be in the world of anime. It's not just an undercurrent. As a matter of fact, it's so mainstream that it's actually the root of problems in other fandoms. For one example of this, take the common tropes of yandere and tsundere characters, which were largely popularized by anime and now infest Western cosplay culture and TikTok. But it goes much beyond that. Over-sexualized minors being referred to as lollies also came from anime culture, and now it's the #1 refuge of closeted creeps all over the world. For whatever reason, there is also a plethora of anime and manga revolving around incest. Regardless of how absurd it is, it's a theme that has been pretty much normalized at this point. And all of that is just the tip of the iceberg. Though I will mostly refrain from delving into things like guro, hentai, and the whole fixation on tentacles thing. As I've already mentioned, things like guro, hentai, and the whole Though I will mostly refrain from delving into things like guro, hentai, and the whole fixation on tentacles thing. As I've already mentioned, enough eccentricities as it is. What is worth focusing on is the fact that none of these things came out in a vacuum. These abominations are only being supplied because there is a demand for them. Additionally, despite being profusely present in the dark recesses of the internet, on websites such as 4chan, DeviantArt, and Rule34, they are not at all limited to it. At least, in Japan, there is an entire industry of professional animation studios that are enthusiastically willing to go along with seemingly any kind of perversion, regardless of how unspeakably disgusting it may be. The only remaining question is, who are they? Because if these manga writers, animators, and convention runners are complicit with the demands of the pathetic perverts that like consuming these sorts of things, then it follows that they must also have some kind of major malfunction. That's what we will find out today. These are the anime degenerates. The first person we're going to be talking about today is Nobuhiro Watsuki. Born Nobuhiro Nishiwaki, he began writing and illustrating manga while he was still in high school. And like many other aspiring authors, he sent his material to many different publications, hoping that something of his would get picked up. In 1987, Nobuhiro wrote a one-shot called Teacher Pawn, which has seemingly never been digitized and is not available online, but apparently, it got an honorable mention in the 33rd edition of the Tezuka Awards, which is hosted semi-annually by Shueisha through their main publication, the Weekly Shonen Jump. If you are not familiar with what that is, it's pretty much the central anthology manga magazine that is responsible for pretty much every shonen title you can think of. Shonen being Japanese media directed at young men. Naruto, Dragon Ball, One Piece, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Hunter x Hunter, Fist of the North Star, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you name it, and it was probably published in the Weekly Shonen Jump. Given its seniority, since it was in circulation since 1968, and how much of a cultural linchpin it was for anyone and everyone interested in manga, it set the golden standard for aspiring writers. So you can imagine how meaningful it is to get an award through it. One of the committee members responsible for choosing who gets the awards is the legendary Akira Toriyama, creator of Dragon Ball, and another, Osamu Tezuka, the man who the awards are named after, made Astro Boy. It's safe to say that being noticed by names like these are no small feat, and it certainly inspired Nobuhiro to keep trying his hand at manga. A few years later, in 1991, another one of his mangas, a story about a schoolgirl who was contacted by a ghost, won the Hop Step Award, which was yet another award held by Shueisha. This gave him the break he needed into the manga world, and soon after graduating, he would move to Tokyo, where he would work as an assistant to I fucking hate these names, holy shit. Yoichi Takahashi and Takeshi Obata, the latter of which authored the well-known manga, anime, and live-action movies under the name Death Note. Eventually, another one of his mangas would get the attention of Shueisha, though this time, it wasn't just for an award. Nobuhiro would write 3 one-shots, 2 of them being centered around a character named Rurouni Kenshin. When Kenshin's stories became serialized and Nobuhiro was hired by Shueisha to continually write for it, they would be published under the title of Samurai X, which, if you are a surface-level anime buff, you have definitely heard about before. Samurai X would go on to amass over 70 million copies in circulation from 1994 to 1999, making it to the top 20 most published manga ever. Evidently, this is something that can be said of very few publications. Nobuhiro quickly made his way into the Mangaka Hall of Fame, and would go on to make another manga as well. Meanwhile, Samurai X got anime and movie adaptations that spread its fame globally, the most recent of which was a live-action trilogy in the early 2010s, and another film supposedly in the works right now. Typically, most mangakas, after achieving success, tend to adopt a low profile and enjoy the fruits of their labor mostly unseen. Nobuhiro, on the other hand, would not be as graceful. In November of 2017, Tokyo Metropolitan Police were leading an investigation into an unrelated incident of the sale of CP, when they discovered a link that led to Nobuhiro. Specifically, he was suspected of having bought videos of girls around 10 years old. When his house and office in Tokyo were searched, the suspicion would be confirmed, as they would find not 1 or 2, but around 100 DVDs, all containing extremely illegal and disgusting material. After his arrest, he was charged and interrogated, almost instantly admitting to it and confessing, even specifying his own preference and content to the officers. I liked girls in the higher grades of elementary school to the 2nd grade of junior high. In response to this news, Shueisha quickly suspended the publishing of new episodes of the Samurai X manga, putting it on an indefinite hiatus until Nobuhiro's situation was cleared up by the police. However, they didn't know what to do with the intellectual property of Samurai X, seeing as it was still under their ownership. Up until this point, Nobuhiro was widely admired, having mentored other illustrious manga artists, such as the creator of One Piece, Eiichiro Oda. Not only that, but he also had a wife who was totally unaware of what he was into until it came out in the news. I can't imagine how disturbing it is to discover that this author, who undoubtedly had access to multitudes of minors over the course of his decades, is a predator. What is also disturbing is the fact that the law that completely prohibited possession of CP in Japan was only ratified in July 2014. Even then, it only allows for the person convicted of violating it to be imprisoned for 1 year, with a fine of 1 million yen, which, though it may sound like a large fine, equates to a little less than $9,000 USD. To add insult to injury, Nobuhiro did not even receive the maximum penalty, having to pay only a fine of 200,000 yen, meaning only about $1,800. The information online indicates that he wasn't condemned to spend even a day in an actual prison.
Jesus
Though horrifying,
Christ.
it's not that surprising coming from a country whose age of consent is 13.
Oh
Less
my
than a year
God.
later, Samurai X continued to be published, most likely with Nobuhiro still profiting from it. However, this wasn't the first time that a manga artist connected to Shonen Jump would be charged with this kind of crime. 2 decades prior to this, you had the story of Mitsutoshi Shimabukuro. Mitsutoshi was also an author, though on a much smaller scale than Nobuhiro. Debuting professionally in 1996, he also had a manga published by Shueisha, the title of which, when translated to English, reads The Tale of a Leader in the End of a Century, Takeshi. It was actually pretty popular, winning 2 awards within 3 years of the beginning of its publication, one of them being the 2001 Shogakukan Manga Award for Children's Anime, which is the oldest and one of the biggest manga awards in Japan. Mitsutoshi's glory, however, was extremely short-lived. In 2002, the circulation of his manga would be abruptly paused, as he would be caught in a scandal involving an underage girl. On August 7th, Kanagawa Prefectural Police and Isuka Police Station would arrest Mitsutoshi for acts that contradict Japan's child prostitution laws. Basically,